What is architect Tarun Patel's signature style?
There is no style which we are following. You can say our style, it's more of a contextual.
Where does this come from?
I remember that, I grown up hearing stories from my mother, and that was about Bhagavad Puran, Ramayana.
What all trends have you seen in past?
We used to have a courtyard kind of a typology and a veranda spaces in the beginning. That is something which I have seen, Otla or a veranda space to a club culture we are having.
How do you think AI is going to affect architecture?
I don't think it will affect this profession, because it is something which beyond a functional dimension.
What change do you think stone as a construction material can bring to a project?
So stone is an honest material. It has a characteristics.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. And today in my podcast, I am joined by architect Tarun Patel from Misa Architects. He is an iconic architect who has worked on very innovative projects, and I've personally gotten a chance to work with him on a couple of his projects and interact with him. And today we'll be discussing about his journey, his experiences, and his projects as well, and his ideology, which I think is very unique and something that everyone should learn from. Hello, Tarun bhai, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, and thank you for that generous introduction, Dhruvin. I really admire the way you speak and introduce everyone. So yeah, thank you so much.
No,
thank
I
you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pleasure of mine to have you over here. But
Likewise,
yeah, definitely. But that intro was worth it because being in this construction material line or stone line, I get to interact with a lot of architects, interior designers, or people related to construction in general, right? But whenever we've interacted, the conversation has taken many different paths.
Yes.
कि हम बात कर रहे थे स्टार्टिंग से कि आपका कोई प्रोजेक्ट में रिक्वायरमेंट था, फिर वहां से वी स्टार्ट डिस्कसिंग सम अदर प्रोजेक्ट ऑफ योर्स,
Yes.
then we start talking about your mythological inspirations, and many times I get goosebumps just talking, and the way you have taken inspiration from different things, and that's something कि मुझे थोड़ा और डिटेल में जानना था. डेफिनेटली हमारी पहले की भी जो बातें थी, those have gone for hours, but this is something I think I'll record this and just maybe look back
Yeah.
whenever I want to.
Indeed, certainly. So I have also not thought, this will our conversation turn into such kind of recordings. So and I really wanted to make it candid this time also, where
Yeah.
we started with some projects, and then we started talking about the deeper meanings of things and what we believe in. How can we inculcate those stories which I have heard it into the project, so it became a compelling narrative for the audience. Yeah.
Amazing. So definitely, Tarun bhai will come to the projects,
Yes.
which is that's something we have discussed very much in detail. But something I maybe want to go into your past. You are a very successful architect, I would say, right now, and that's something we should learn. That how did you start? What inspired you to be an architect, or what was the day when you thought that I want to be an architect?
Oh yeah. So that thought was never there in my mind. But my father was a contractor. He's a government contractor. So I
Okay.
used to go with him on a site. It was a ritual. It's a ritual with him. So whenever on Sundays we used to go to site, and I was always wondering how on earth that somebody has drawn something on a blueprint. That in that time ammonia paper pe print nikalta tha.
Correct.
And he used to look at those drawings, and and then whatever detailings and discussions were happening on site. So that was mesmerizing for me.
Okay.
And so many times I have asked him this question also. Papa, ये कैसे बनता है? कौन बनाता है? So he's like, this is being made by engineer, because that time, I'm talking about 30 years back. So that time, the government projects mainly designed by engineers and few architects. So that was a first trigger to me. This is something which I would like to explore. कि कैसे होता है? How can you draw something and which is going to be there on the ground? So that is first. And while going to site and other things, I never thought that I'll start my journey in this field. So then time comes, after 12th science, you opt for this art, NATA and other entrance tests.
True.
Entrance test, and you got an admission in architecture college. But my real journey starts when I'm in a professional field.
Correct.
where I met my mentor, and he actually taught me what is right, what is wrong, and what is this all about. It's not just a drawing, or it's not just about the things which you make something and it pleases your eyes.
Correct.
It is something else. It is something else. It has a deeper and profound meaning, rather than looking at buildings and talking about kaisa dikh raha hai.
True.
So that was it for me. So and when I was a kid, I never thought that I'll become an architect.
That's amazing. Something you never thought but ended up being.
Yeah,
right?
ended up being. Yeah.
And I just love the stories where, like, someone gets inspired from their parents.
Yeah.
Like I myself,
Yes.
to an extent, like,
this field. Yes.
got into this field because of my family, and I absolutely love it. Like, you get that father figure who inspires you to do
Yes.
something that they've been building upon. That's absolutely amazing, right? Now, it's been, I think, almost 20 years that you've been an architect.
Yes.
How many projects you would have roughly worked upon till now?
So we never count, how many projects we have encountered or worked upon. Roughly more than 100.
100 plus projects.
Plus or 200 plus, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just randomly, now you are asking me, so I'm thinking, oh my God, kitne project kiye honge. So many of those projects are unbuilt. So for us, those we are not counting, but it is something which we have cracked it.
Okay.
So for us, that process matters a lot.
True, definitely.
So then once it is cracked, that design cracked, then it is become mundane thing. But as you say, as I'm just asking this to myself, maybe 100, 200 plus projects we have worked upon.
Okay, that's a very wide range.
Yeah, and again, it's including architecture and interior. It's not an architecture, but architecture and interior. Yeah, we have roughly worked upon 200 plus projects.
That's absolutely amazing.
So that is the right figure, I can say.
Amazing. So, like, 20 years, maybe 200 plus projects.
Yes.
Like, after a point, people say, ek hi ek cheez karke log bore ho jate hain. Like, someone hits that saturation point. But, like, still I see you, like, speaking so passionately about architecture whenever we talk. What is something that keeps you going every day, that keeps you motivated every day to become an architect and, like, just work on your designing and helping people build their home of dreams?
Okay. So, first of all, whatever we have designed till point, all the projects you see, those are different program.
Okay.
So it's not like what we are designing, but it's like, what that space will offer to you. And considering client's requirement also. And we also understand that, and again, what my mentor said, consider all these projects you are doing a temple of God, so that you will not do a miserable job. Second, you will be a part of someone's aspirations.
Correct.
Those many aspirations are there. When you are designing a home, then those aspirations are at peak, because कोई एक पूरी लाइफ में 2 या 3 से ज्यादा घर नहीं बना सकता.
Very true.
और जब कोई एक घर बनाता है तो उनके बहुत सारे एस्पिरेशंस होते हैं. So there you are supposed to reach, adhere those aspirations and create something which is beyond their expectation, which they have not seen it.
Correct.
That makes us keep on going, because we wanted to be part of their happiness, and home is something where people consider that as a happiness, which over the period of time where their life is breeding, and they'll so that space is going to be part of their life.
Correct.
So in a way, we are becoming the part of their life's journey.
Okay.
And that is what which keeps us going. We wanted to be part of their happiness. We wanted to be part of their happy life experiences.
Correct.
So that's why we design all the projects. We consider every project is a different project. And that's what we are supposed to do as an architect. If you do a repetitive job, then it becomes a mundane.
True.
Right?
That is what I think is saturation.
So that is a saturation, saturation what is all about. And in architecture, every program, every space is a different.
True.
You cannot replicate, it's not a product. Apple का जो product होता है वैसा नहीं है. Everyone's aspirations is also different. Everyone's उनकी इच्छाएं भी अलग रहती है. उनके rationals are also different. So, I may like, this kind of an environment, but you may like something else.
True.
You like to hear some different kind of a music. That's everyone is unique in their own way.
Very true.
So why projects are, similar? Like, we have one apartment where, lift and staircase को बात करके, then we have 4 apartments. They all look similar. उसको just repeat करके, then you stack them in a 20-story, 10-story or 30-story.
Correct.
So why can't we do something where every space or every floor becomes something else, or which represents the unique expression of individuals,
Correct.
rather than a mundane stacking of
Same to
stacking
same.
of floors.
Hmm.
So that's what which motivates us and motivate us.
So that
And
sounds
yeah,
very purposeful. Like, by designing a house, you feel like you become a part of a person's
yes, yes,
life. That's very beautiful thought, I would say, right? And I think, like, that also says that you have your why clear,
yeah.
right? A lot of people try to find their why, like, what is my why? But you have it very much in your clarity. That's absolutely amazing.
So I just wanted to add one thing.
Yeah, sure,
So
please.
my mentor, my guru, made me passionate about this thing.
Hmm.
So it's good if I can, or it's wise to say, or the why part, I have found that solace
Hmm.
in doing drawings, and I'll be
Correct.
happy. That is what a vacation mean to me.
Hmm.
मेरे लिए वही vacation है. But I wanted to change now. How can it becomes a prayer?
Hmm.
Whatever I do, how can it become a prayer to a God?
Correct.
And so
Correct.
you'll be happily seeing me doing this in this life or the next life or in this universe or the parallel universe. I am. You'll find me doing this only.
That's
So this
amazing.
is what I really wanted to do.
Amazing. Tarun bhai, like you mentioned about your mentor a couple of times,
Yeah.
right? I think they have had a very deep impact upon your your life, your work, and your
Yes, yes,
profession
yes.
overall. Like I'd love to know more about your relations with your mentor and how they have changed your thought processes.
Okay. So again, going back to 15, 20 years, when I first started designing, when I was, out in the field, I was the sole bread earner to the family.
Correct.
So earlier, I never thought I'll design something which creates an impact or which creates an experience, or पहले ऐसा ही था कैसा दिख रहा है. So I was happy doing drawings, and I was up, I was giving those drawings to client. ये बनाया मैंने क्लाइंट को दे दिया, अभी जैसे बनाना
आप
वैसे बनाओ,
execute करो.
आप एग्जीक्यूट करो, मैं साइट पे भी नहीं आऊंगा और मेरा कुछ फीस है वो ले लेता था. So that was the practice which I was doing. So उसमें 3-4 प्रोजेक्ट मिल रहे थे, तो I was happy getting 30,000-40,000 for drawings and other thing. So when I met my guru in Gift City, and couple of encounters with my mentor, so he taught me, or he it's not something which he taught me. It's about our conversations throughout 5-6 years of working with under him. Those conversations realized me that you start living whatever you are designing.
Okay.
Otherwise drawing to koi bhi bana sakta hai, and again those drawings won't give you a purpose when it is it is being done something it is being done differently.
True.
So then slowly I realized कि अच्छा खाली drawing नहीं देते, let's explore it in a deeper, let's go beyond tangible aspect, let's create an intangible experience. And उसके बाद एक प्रोजेक्ट किया, फिर उसके बाद दूसरा किया, तीसरा किया, then you started your journey. Actually that's where the entire thought process has started changing. So he taught me what not to do.
What not to do.
Right? So ये गलत है, ये सही है. So it was not about वापस आर्किटेक्चर सिखा रहा है, but it was about what you should do, what are the responsibility which is there on your shoulder. So the major responsibility he taught me that what are you contributing towards the contemporary heritage of India or Ahmedabad.
Correct.
One fine day your daughter will he told me the same word, one fine day your daughter will grow up, what will you show her? Will you show her Sarkis Roja, Adalajni Vav, Modera Sun Temple, Ranakpur Jain Temple, or the monuments which are there? Or will you take her to your site and proudly show her that this is what your papa has contributed or made it? So that's what made me again passionate, and again that, so those words are still there, and those are so such encounters, many encounters when we design. Once I left the Gift City and other other projects where I was working with him, when I started working on my own project, so those encounter I remember, अच्छा ऐसा नहीं ऐसा बोला था, ऐसा नहीं ऐसा करना, ऐसा नहीं ऐसा करना. Then you do one project and then it recognized, then you do second, and then when you visit those projects again and again, then it also gives you different meaning.
Correct.
So it gives you a sensorial experience. This is what so then you realize अच्छा ये वहाँ से you have learned. First and foremost thing which he taught me, start reading books. Okay. Start reading architectural novels and other things, and start writing about it. So that is the most crucial thing which had happened to me, and which he has insisted.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, most of the times we focus a lot on what to do,
Yeah.
and we sometimes forget what not to
Not
do,
to
right?
do,
That's a very interesting thing, I think. Like, a lot of people should think upon
Yeah.
to focus on other things. And definitely, I think having a good mentor can shape you very differently,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Because I think no matter how experienced or like how educated we are, having someone to guide throughout your journey makes a lot of difference.
Yes.
Right? That was amazing. Now, Tarun bhai, let's start talking a little bit about your projects, right?
Okay.
I think every architect has a signature style or an impression that they leave on every space that they've worked upon, right? Some might be inspired from nature, some might be inspired from culture, right? What is architect Tarun Patel's signature style?
Oh, I would say that's a difficult question to answer, but so there is no style which we are following. You can say our style, it's more of a contextual style. So whatever project we have done, those are, if in terms of language, we have explore all kind of language. It's like, I'm quoting Zaya Hadi, the great architect. She said that we have 360-degree. Why stick to 1 degree?
Okay.
Right. So likewise, I'm not saying we should explore different things and not explore different things, but we explore things which is good for our context.
Okay.
Which is enrooted in our culture, which is enrooted in our hot and dry climate or whatever context we are in. So material also, whatever material we are using, those are contextual material. Then you can explore any language you want to explore. You want to explore neoclassical or a classical or a modern, contemporary, Indian contemporary or conventional or a vernacular. Those are the language which you can explore or a style which you can explore.
Correct.
To be rooted in your culture or in your context. We draw inspiration from our past, traditional, the way in which we were supposed to build. But before designing anything, we ask ourselves a series of questions, like what this space wants to be. How can you instill a perpetual sense of celebration or a soul to the space, and how can it become a timeless piece of an architecture or interior space? For example, we are generally, when we design interior project, we ask these questions: can we design interior space without furniture?
Okay.
So that's where the entire game is. So people forget to understand these questions, where interior can be designed without furniture piece. So sofa is not the interior designing; it's a product design.
True.
So that product can be a part of it's a bigger space, or so interior designing is a space designing. Then if you talk like this, or if you ask such questions, then you'll be talking about ceiling, floor, wall, what it tells you. Can you talk to silence? Can you talk to nothingness? Can you evoke certain senses into the spaces? So those are the things which we really want to do, and which we are doing in all of our projects. Whether we have instilled a soul or not, person can visit, and then we can say कि उसको soul दिख रहा है, नहीं दिख रहा है, मिला या नहीं मिला.
Correct.
But this is what we try in every project. So answering again back to what you have asked, style का जो question है. So style is this. In every project we want to create an experience.
Correct.
It has to be from storytelling experience or evoking certain senses into the space, or how can we design something which becomes which gives a multisensorial experience, where we are not appreciating and evaluating things with our eyes, but through other senses. That's what we do. So that's what you can say.
Amazing.
When it comes to
so I think you try to make every space personal for whosoever is going to use it, right? That's a very thoughtful way of working, right? That's amazing. But regardless, let's say you have a entire complete freedom. There is no client preference or nothing. What's one style that you would always want to implement?
Again, I would stick to what I have discussed. So I don't know whether we'll get that complete freedom, but hope and keeping our finger crossed that someday we find a client कि जो हमें पूरी freedom दे. So that project, we have done one project which was about a meandering passages and pathways. So it was about your enigmatic journey towards the unknown.
Correct.
You don't know where exactly you are heading towards, and suddenly you find a space where you want like to be part of. So
Correct.
that project is still there, which is unbuilt. We are finding, we are hoping that right client probably will come and allow us to build something like that. Again,
Correct.
it's a contextual. So this is what we stick to, want to stick to,
Mm.
where we design something which is based on our context, where we can explore many things. So that is what which is there in my mind. When given a chance, I would love to
Execute that.
execute that project.
So it's like
It's
a dream project.
Dream project, which is, we have designed a farmhouse for someone. Unfortunately, it's not built, but it is based on those nuances where you encounter each and every space. So that can be a, you can give it. It can be a fluid space. It can be converted into any sorts of a program. So living room can be converted into a reading space, or can be converted into, your space to find yourself, a space for playing a music, space for playing with your kids. So it's a different kind of a program, and every nooks and corner, every twist and turn, you will be amazed and you will feel that connect with you, and gives you a different sensorial experience. That's what we have
Amazing.
created. We tried even, but unfortunately it's not built.
Okay. Maybe the right time is yet to come.
Exactly. So we are still, anyway, whenever we think in this direction, that is that one project which keeps on coming to my mind.
I'd love to see it live someday.
Of course, so that is of course there, but we'll love to share design also when we meet next time.
Definitely. That's gonna be there. But let's talk about design inspirations, right? As I said, people get inspired from different things, and I've noticed, I might be wrong. I think you take or draw a lot of inspiration from our mythological past or ancient history that our culture has had, right? And that's very unique. I think I don't hear that very often, right? So where does this come from?
Okay, yeah. So answer to this question, I remember that I grown up hearing stories from my mother, and that was about Bhagavad Puran, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all those stories. I used to, she used to tell me.
Correct.
When I was kid. So that was also something which I was mesmerized, and which I really wanted to visit such places. So when first encounter, when I visited Modera Sun Temple, or Kolhapur's Mahalakshmi Temple, where Kirnotsav is happening, or a Jagannath Puri Temple, or a Konark Temple, Surya Temple. So those are not just a temple, but they have stories which are inculcated in them, or a Hampi, which is a poetry in stone. You must be knowing, because we are working on stone. So those are the places where you. It's not just a place of place of architecture or a place of a building, but it is this mythological story they are inculcated in a way that you will find immediate connect. So let me give you one example. So जैसे वहाँ Rama Hazari temple is there in Hampi.
Okay.
The entire Ramayana they have sculpted in a stone, and they put it on the periphery of the temple. So it is being, there is a saying ऐसा बोला जाता है कि when you do a one परिक्रमा, that means आपने एक बार रामायण पढ़ ली.
Okay.
So now imagine such stories are there, such buildings are there, or Kirnotsav. At a certain period of time, ईयर में किरणोत्सव जब होता है कोल्हापुर महालक्ष्मी के टेम्पल में, उस टाइम पे सन की जो रेज है वो उनके पांव से लेके उनके सिर तक जाती है on those 2-3 days, and it is being celebrated as a किरणोत्सव. So जब उस टाइम पे टेक्नोलॉजी भी नहीं था, उस टाइम पे इंटरनेट भी नहीं था, but still they have created such wonder.
Amazing.
Or our Surya temple, equinox के time पे when sun rays are falling onto the idol. So those calculation of sun movement and those diagram which they have, I don't again our Giza pyramid. So those are the alignment of Giza pyramid in such a way it follows the sun path and things like that, which was not known till 1950 or something, where somebody flew from above and realized that it is something else. So that is always something which you would love to be, you try to be, or maybe uska answer kya hai wo ढूंढने का you'll try. And can we inculcate such story in your project? Because now we are sitting on a heap of technology where you can calculate सन का पाथ क्या है, कौन से टाइम पे कहाँ पे रहेगा. In 365 days, sun movement is different. It is
Correct.
not static,
Correct,
you know,
correct.
always it is in southern direction, then comes in the northern part, again goes into the south end. It is not from east to west.
True, true.
So how can we make or create a, you know, drama of light and shadow, and how can we, you know, add a celestial dimension to your space? So let me give you another example of our project, which is about 2-bay house, which we designed for one of our client. So that is based on a story of in-betweenness. So if we recollect the story of Hiranyakashyap, Bhakta Prahlad and Nursi Avatar, it is also about the in-betweenness.
Correct.
So you know, we can say that, you know, Nursi Avatar is because किसी ने ऐसा मांगा भगवान से कि मैं न अंदर मरूंगा न बाहर मरूंगा, you know, मैं न रात को मरूं न दिन में मरूं, न अस्त्र से मरूं न शस्त्र से मरूं, न निर्जीव से मरूं न सजीव से मरूं. So, you know, तथास्तु, भगवान said, and, you know, he has incarnated himself as a Nursi Avatar, which is of in between of everything. आधा नर आधा पशु, ना नाखून से मारा, ना सजीव न निर्जीव, न अंदर न बाहर, threshold पे he got killed. So can we design something which is in between?
Correct.
No, like Rumi's poem, which is about, I'll meet you there beyond right doing and wrong doing. So it is about in betweenness. So we have created that long double height corridor or a passage where you will feel the nothingness, where, you know, if you go in certain period of time, you will find yourself, there is a big door, a giant door. When you open that door and at 12:39 or some on a particular time, the sun shadow will be casted on your head, as if you are welcomed by sun god. Right? Another project, our maze house, where we want rain god, sun god, and wind god inside our house. And how can you passively welcome them, and they will become a part of your life expectancy. You know? So that how can it be? It's celebrations where you don't need to switch on your light and ventilation unless and until they are there. So those dimensions really admire us, and this is what we want to inculcate in our drawing. And then फिर वो कैसा दिख रहा है ना बिल्डिंग, वो कोई नहीं बोलेगा. It is all about the concept and experience. So that double height corridor under the one single passage which we design, and through which you enter or encounter rooms or living room, dining, kitchen, through water body and other stuff, then you will immediately feel a transition from outside to inside.
True. Right?
An auspicious time, those water body can be filled up with tea light candle, flowers. So then again, you know, it gives a different smell altogether. So where you are not keeping things कि अच्छा लग रहा है या अच्छा लगे, but you are all talking about that profound experience.
Correct.
So in all of our projects, whether it's urban house or a outhouse or a 2-bay house as we discussed, or a maze house or a transformers factory, or Vishal Aluminiums, that corporate office building, or a Blue Lotus cafe which we recently designed. So that is what makes us, you know, curious and fun. You know, that is what the process where, you know, unless and until you you know, find that, you know, one thing where you will say nahi abhi aage kuch nahi karna hai, this is what we have found, or this is how we, so that is the right question, that is the question ka answer.
Correct.
Right? So yeah, so this is what is,
so inculcating stories and focusing more on
experiences. And when you read more about mythology, those stories are amazing. You know, how can someone you know, imagine that Vara अवतार लेके इन्होंने मदर अर्थ को बाहर निकाला, या Krishna story or Rama story, or, you know, there are you know, different stories. If you Shiv Puran or, you know, other Purans are there, so where you get to know Skanda Puran के छह you know एक छह शीर हो सकते हैं, या रावण को 10 हेड थे. So just start imagining those stories. सहस्त्र बाहु मतलब 1000 हाथ वाला एक इंसान था, कैसे पॉसिबल है? So those are, I don't know whether it's a metaphorical or physical form उसका होगा नहीं होगा, but at least it is there in someone's head.
Yeah.
So can we also go in that direction? और ऐसा कुछ सोच के कुछ नया create हो सकता है कि नहीं?
Correct.
So that's what, you know, we got inspiration from.
Amazing. That's absolutely amazing. You know, this is a topic जहाँ पे मैंने तो personally नहीं देखा कि, like, you know, a lot of people try to inspire spaces by, like, you know, our ancient history, and that's something very unique, and I think that's what, like, you know, differentiates your projects from, like, you know, the routine things that we see. But I'll ask you a difficult question later about choosing one of the very few projects that you mentioned. But before that, we talked about your inspirations, your concepts. But having worked across many different types of projects, residential, commercial, industrial, and even in hospitality, we talked about your inspirations, your thought processes, how your mindset works while designing. But when you are delivering a project for a client, definitely you consider their choices as well. I think
Yes.
that's a priority, in fact, right?
Yes.
So over these 20 years and these many projects, what all trends have you seen in past ke pehle aisa hota tha, and right now what's the trend in architecture, and what do you see coming in the near future in architectural trend?
Okay. So no, again, it's let me try, and it's a difficult question to answer, but we can take an example of our old city, the way in which we used to build.
Correct.
So I would say where we used to have a courtyard kind of a typology and a veranda spaces in the beginning, where actually city meets a private space or bungalow or your property, private property meets a public space. So there's a generous threshold which we used to have, where people were doing their day-to-day activity. Somebody's reading newspaper, somebody's just chilling, somebody's talking with each other, and so that is something which I have seen from Otla or a veranda space to a club culture we are having. It is that trend I have seen which is happening, and I would say we can see a complete transformation of such typology into something else. So that courtyard kind of a typology, where it's a simple science. When you have courtyard inside your house, hot air goes up, and cool air stays down.
Okay.
This is where you borrow your ventilation, light, and every other thing. That can be your complete public space inside your house, where you'll see people are gathered around that courtyard, and from there you are borrowing light and ventilation, because in hot and dry climate you cannot have glass facade.
Correct.
Right, which
Very
we are
true.
having right now, and so
True.
so that deep veranda and courtyard spaces were giving you such comfort, and that's how our ancestors used to build. So that is something which I have seen change from that to an apartment or a bungalow kind of a typology, where we are having ultra luxurious kind of which people are naming their bungalow,
Inspiration, yeah.
inspirations and other thing. And again, the way we pronounce our bungalow or apartment, it's a 3 BHK house, 4 BHK house. Rather, we forget, the spaces creates a runanubandh, or spaces creates, when you start sitting on some spaces or ek jagah pe aap baithe rahoge for 10-15 saal, then there is a runanubandh with that spaces.
Correct.
So जो experiential चीज है उसकी बजाय now we are talking about them in absolute number के 3 BHK 4 BHK वाला house है और 5 BHK house है. So that trend I have seen from this to there, which is being completely different. And technology wise also, because of the invention of the vertical communication, which is lift, and construction material now. And again, the urbanization, the way in which, on which rate which is happening, which also requires a more built-up space. I'm not having any problem with apartment kind of a typology, but why those apartments look same? So that is the one thing which keeps bothering us. Earlier, if you see all the bungalows and other spaces are different.
Everything is unique.
You will find again, it's unique, but you will find some sort of a cohesiveness inside. The way the connection with the street is something which was there. Now that connection is losing up, having podium typology or having certain vertical kind of a stack up kind of apartment. So that is completely which we are missing on the ground, which we are missing. So that is the change again which is being observed.
So personally, I think you would prefer a bungalow over a apartment, maybe.
No. So please don't get me wrong. I'm saying, why can't every floor
be
unique or be a penthouse?
Correct.
Why can't all the floors will have something else rather than
the same template?
Same template, and you stack them. So can we do something? That's why all the apartments look similar.
True.
You do a skin treatment or a elevation treatment. but inside there is no soul,
Mm.
right? So that is what is happening. You walk on SG highway or any peripheral areas or wherever the redevelopment is happening. You look at those 3 BHK or 4 BHK or apartment plans. Those are nothing but the same. A passage, 3 rooms, and the entrance there is a 1 room, living, dining, kitchen combined, and you are done.
Done. Yeah.
Then you will play with elevation. आगे पीछे करो, different material add करो, and you visit a city which we admire, like Barcelona, New York, I would say Paris or Singapore or France or European cities.
Mm.
They are also building an apartment. But why those skylines are different? I'll give you another example where BRK Ingels करके एक architect है,
Okay.
Danish architect. He has designed a beautiful high-rise residential tower on Manhattan, in Manhattan. It is completely different typology.
Okay.
Where he has inspired from the Central Park का जो courtyard है, city level courtyard,
Yeah,
I'm saying,
yeah.
a big
That's a
Central
city level
Park,
courtyard. Yeah.
and drawing his inspiration from it and created something, different kind of a typology. It's again an apartment only.
Mm.
But why can't we have such skyline here?
Mm.
That is something which we wanted to have. So it's not bungalow versus apartment. It's about how we are building them, which is completely different.
Now, having some level of authenticity.
Authenticity, experience, and other thing. And again, it is not problem at architecture level. The problem which is happening at the planning level.
Okay.
So what is happening? There is a one plot, and then bylaws, our GDCR says you need to leave certain margin, 6 meter या 4 meter या 3 meter सब जगह से छोड़ो. Then there is another bylaws talks about common open plot, you need to leave. Then talks about approach road. Then again it talks about सर्विसेज से इतना मार्जिन चाहिए. उसके बाद जितना ग्राउंड कवरेज मिला, जितना ग्राउंड यू आर लेफ्ट विथ, सो दैट इज देयर वेयर यू कैन बिल्ड. और उसको कंसीडर करके आपको एफएसआई अचीव करना है. एंड एवरीवेयर दिस इज हैपनिंग. सो वी एज एन आर्किटेक्ट आर थिंकिंग दैट वी आर पुलिंग आउट और वी आर डिजाइनिंग अ बिल्डिंग, बट वी आर नॉट. वी आर जस्ट पुलिंग आउट अ शेप आउट ऑफ जीडीसीआर विच इज बीइंग प्रिस्क्राइब. उसमें कितने मीटर का लिफ्ट चाहिए, कितना स्टेयरकेस चाहिए, वो सब डिफाइन किया हुआ है. सो देन यू आर लेफ्ट विद एलिवेशन ट्रीटमेंट ओनली, राइट? सो दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच कलेक्टिवली इफ वी कैन वर्क एज एन आर्किटेक्ट एंड एज एन प्लानर, देन वी कुड हैव सीन सम डिफरेंट स्काईलाइन. सो वहां पे देन बंगलो भी अलग हो सकता है एंड अपार्टमेंट भी अलग से हो सकता है. सो आई एम नॉट सेइंग मार्जिन्स नहीं होने चाहिए, फायर टेंडर मूवमेंट चाहिए, लाइट वेंटिलेशन चाहिए, राइट? इट्स अ डिजाइन कॉल, इट्स पर्सनल चॉइस. It shouldn't be prescribed.
Correct.
That is where the problem lies.
That limits the creativity.
That limits the creativity. So our main focus goes into achieving higher FSI.
Okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
सबसे ज्यादा FSI कौन achieve कर रहा है? Rather, we are acting as a excise lawyer. Okay, and then trying to find the loopholes in GDCR. Rather, our creativity should actually, be or gone into the way in which we design our building.
Correct.
To create a different experience. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
so that somewhere you feel should be worked upon, or
yes,
maybe
should be worked
some
upon.
reform should be there.
And then technology wise, so we have now 3D printers are available. Or maybe, as you rightly mentioned, where before we started our podcast about किसी ने 100 days में किसी ने पूरा building design कर दिया. So those technological advancement is always there. We can have precast building also. We can have 3D printer building also. So that is going to be future. Maybe you'll find robots are building as well or doing a construction. You don't know the way in which we are using our AI right now. The future might there is no surprise if we see such development.
Correct.
It has been designed somewhere in the factory, and then you'll
directly
install it like we are taking our modular furniture.
You mentioned about AI. I've seen a couple of AI models online, which really helps you design.
Yeah.
Even as an end user,
Yes.
someone who has no knowledge about architecture, they can just put in the dimensions of their house and they can play around themselves in a very simple to use interface.
Yes.
So how do you feel that's gonna affect architecture as a profession? Do you think there's a chance it can replace it, or how do you think AI is gonna affect architecture?
So I don't think it will affect this profession, because it is something which it's beyond functional dimension. It is a couple of times I have also spoken right now also where for us experience comes first, form much later, right? Whatever prompt you put in AI, it will generate which is there in the data, which is there in their data set,
Database, correct.
right? So imagine a human brain capacity which is beyond this database. In fact, I would say, I think it will help our design fraternity to explore different dimension, which is not being, done before.
Correct.
Right. So that's why I can see, for personally, I think AI will be more helpful to us, where you are generating super detailed drawing, creating a 3D, creating experience or virtual reality before you know what the space will look like, or you will feel how it's gonna give you an experience.
Correct.
So
correct.
that's where I think it's going in that direction. But when it comes to design, it can generate a few shapes, but I don't think it can generate an experience, or it can replace architecture.
Definitely. I think creating an experience is a main USP of having a good architect. And I think that is something that's very far from being replaced by AI, right?
And so our brain capacity, we don't know how much capacity it has. It's endless. So kitne prompt daloge, kitne data set daloge. There is always something new, and we have seen it. Our civilization from from monkey man to caveman to right now who we are, the vast amount of a spectrum or a vast amount of transformation we have seen.
Correct.
Or evolution theory. So I don't know how can it replace. I think it's a really helpful tool to as an architect and available for us, where you can simply let me give you another example. We are designing one solar factory. So we know nothing earlier. We don't know anything about solar factory, but because of the ChatGPT, what program needs to be addressed, how you make checklist, and all those are the things which are there available, but which is not in your which they're in your fingertip.
Correct.
Because of those AI tool, it is there
more
with
accessible.
More accessible. So data will be more accessible. So you can use those data and create something which is not being seen. Right?
So it's more of a complementary addition, saving time and making things efficient.
Yes. It is more of a complementary side.
So in a way, it's going to positively impact somehow.
Yes, positive. I am optimistic in that part.
Correct. Now you talked about a project that you're working on, right? Solar factory. Let's talk a bit more about your projects now. You mentioned about a couple of your projects, the Maze House or the Two Bay House or the Blue Lotus Cafe, right? And many more. If you have to be biased, what would be one project that always stands out to you, that is your personal favorite or very close to heart?
So I don't think I have that biasness towards what we have done. So it's like, we have 5 fingers. And if I'm asking you to choose any of them, it's simply not possible.
Correct. Everyone has different
It's different and different function. Every finger is different function, whether it's your ring finger or your thumb or your pointy finger or anamika. Everyone is acting differently. Like, mother को बोलेंगे कि 5 बच्चों में से कोई choose करो. So it is not possible for us. Every project is different. Every client is different. We gone through a certain process which we never thought it will come out like this, right? All the projects, when we start designing it now, we never thought this will turn into something like this. So there is something koi hai jo kar raha hai, so some other architect is doing our work. We are just being a nimit to those work. So it's difficult, and I don't have that.
You can't choose.
I can't choose. Yeah, that is true.
All right, we'll make it a little bit easy. Let's definitely you can't have favorites maybe, but let's say what is one project that, let's say, is from ancient history, or that was made maybe before you were born and maybe you learned later in your life. What is that one project that you would have loved to be a part of?
Oh, so again, in that also, a couple of projects which are there, I can give you name of those projects, like Ranakpur Jain Temple.
Okay.
So, जब तक सूर्य अस्त नहीं होता है, you are light चालू नहीं करना पड़ रहा है. Again, be it summer, be it winter, or be it monsoon, it gives you a utmost comfort. Whether you visit in summertime or a monsoon time or a winter time. Or another project which is dear to my heart is Jagannath Puri Temple. Yeah. So where science still confused, and couldn't find the way in which things are happening at that temple, or our Konark temple or Surya temple, where when you start studying those, about that temple, you'll realize that it is something else. It is not just a temple, a dedicated temple to a sun idol or a sun god. So there's a kund, steps are which is being designed, or a Dallas vow. When you visited those steps, when you do an abstract diagram of those steps, it creates a symbol of fire and water.
Okay.
It is the only space where you'll see this duality, exist together. Fire or water kabhi saath mein nahi milega, but it is that place where you'll find those elements are together. Then it's about purification of yourself, where I really would love to see how people have thought of that thing, or given as you said na, कि अगर past में जाके, if you would love to be part of such projects, I would love to be part of such projects. Again, in South में there is one temple. If you study carefully or observe sun diagram or a sun shadow or a, moon ka shadow, you get to know कौन सा महीना चल रहा है और कौन सी घड़ी चल रही है.
Correct.
So those are different things which we are yet to inculcate in our project.
Correct.
Which would love to be part of such thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So majorly or heritage or historical sites.
Historical heritage.
That's
yes,
amazing.
Yes. In a modern time also, there are a couple of architects who are doing amazing work. Our Guru, the Balkrishna Doshi, our Ahmedabad Gufa, which is a different program altogether. Exhibition art gallery can be like this, or ऐसा हो सकता है. It's a different program where it is difficult for M.F. Hussain to draw. Or Daniel Lipskin's Jewish Museum in Germany, where you visit it, you will feel the pain. Because 1 लाख लोगों को किसी ने मार दिया है गैस चैम्बर के अंदर, and it is been designed like that, where it creates it will give you a goosebump, and you will feel the pain of people died there.
Correct.
So those are the places which anyone would love to be part of.
Amazing. Tarun bhai, you talked about Balkrishna Doshi sir and even other foreign architects, Danish architects. Who are some architects that you really take inspiration from or look up to?
I said this to many interviews or discussion, that Ahmedabad is the place where who's of who have worked. We can consider in Hindi जैसे ये होता है ना अपना तीर्थ धाम. For architecture, it's a तीर्थ धाम.
Architecture के तीर्थ धाम.
क्योंकि वहाँ पे लुई आई कान ने काम किया है. One of the great architect of then Lee Corbusier has also worked. Balkrishna Doshi has also worked. Charles Correa has worked. Book Minister Fuller has worked. We have living legend Bimal Bhai Patel, who is still working. His father Hasmukh Bhai Patel has worked at Patang Hotel. So it's a Tirth Dham for an architect. Where you visit this place or a city, you'll have a variety of architecture, variety of architects' work. And choosing between them, it's really difficult, but I really like to, as a given a chance to be part of a project, our IIM. Ahmedabad. Because, somebody who's from different context has worked here in 1960s, and he considered, it is one of his last project.
Okay.
Louis I. Khan's last project. He is a yogi in terms of his plan is so spiritually strong. And the way he has designed the entire building is something else. It's a light and shadows, drama between light and shadow.
True, very
where
true.
You will talk to, as we discussed earlier, the balance between light and shadow, balance between silence and light. Such nuances you will find. Certain emotion he has already evoked. He has evoked in those areas or those places. So that is one architect which I really admire. And you look at his all the projects, whether it's a Salt Lake Institute or a Kimball Art Museum or houses which he has designed.
Correct.
It's something else. Again, it has appealed to your eyes, and again, it dealt at a different layers, which it gives you a different sensorial experience when you visit them.
Now you talk about sensorial experiences, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you sort of inculcate or implement those in projects that you work in?
Okay. So we inspired this multisensorial experience from book called Eyes of the Skin
Okay, eyes of the skin.
by Juhani Plasma. He's a theoretician. He's a great theoretician. So he has written a book called Eyes of the Skin, where he has spoken about every time we are evaluating and appreciating things through our eyes. But what about the other senses?
Hmm.
And this is what is being done in temple architecture. There is a temple parisar. You from outside to inside, the journey is happening. A transition is happening from your बाहर की दुनिया से you are entering into a smaller places,
Correct.
spaces.
Hmm.
Then comes your kund or a mandapa, where you will do katha kirtan and things like that, where spaces become smaller and smaller, darker and darker, right? And then comes your sanctum sanctoral,
Hmm.
जहाँ पे भगवान होते हैं, जहाँ पे उनकी आइडियल होती है. So imagine from outer world to a temple parisar to a mandapa, where things are from broader to
Narrower,
narrower
like,
and
more
narrower and
detailed.
narrower, from light to more
Darkness.
darker and darker spaces. So when you see such transition, your other senses will be heightened.
Hmm.
It's like hearing to such good music with your loved ones, where you'll find slowly you close your eyes like that. And then when you enter into the गर्भगृह sanctum sanctoral, you वहाँ पे जो दिया है उसकी ज्योत ब्राइट हो जाती है, कुमकुम हल्दी अक्षत का कलर ब्राइट हो जाता है, बिकॉज योर अदर सेंसेस आर हाइटन.
Hmm.
घंटनाद जो है वो एकदम प्रॉम्प्टली सुनाई देता है. एंड दिस इज वेयर द ट्रांजिशन इज हैपनिंग from outside to inside, from without to within.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's where the meditation is, becomes easier in temple places, where it actually gives you a different sensorial experience. It is not about कैसा दिख रहा है, it is about कैसा सुनाई दे रहा है, कैसा फील हो रहा है, टाइटन्स नैरोवर स्पेसेस. एंड अगेन एक प्रोसेस होता है ना, एक प्रोसेसन होता है, इट्स अ लॉन्ग पाथ बिफोर यू एंटर इनटू अ सेंक्टोरम.
Correct.
राइट, गर्भगृह में एंटर करने के पहले यू हैव टू फॉलो सर्टेन रिचुअल्स.
Hmm.
सो दोज रिचुअल्स बीइंग डिजाइन इन अ वे सो दैट दे विल, सो वहां जाके आप पूरा सब भूल जाओगे, राइट? सो लाइकवाइज we also try to inculcate such experience or such elements into our design.
Hmm.
So floor is not going to be simple floor. Can you, like पहले जैसे हम रंगोली करते थे, वैसे कुछ can we inlay something in our floor
Hmm.
जो different nuance create करता है. या फिर बाहर imagine just a flower pot रखा है water lily के साथ, which gives you a different smell. So immediately it change your mood. So architecture and interior has that power. It will change your perception and your mood, right?
True.
You
very
will
true.
awestruck when you visit a good places, right? This is what they have done to you,
Correct.
and that's how we try to give us
Inculcate
sensorial
those
experience.
experiences. Amazing. No, that's very interesting to learn, and definitely, like, when you learn about such things which are, like, happening as a common man, we may not even realize
Yeah.
we are going through that
True,
process.
yes,
But
yes.
like, and that's the thing, like, not even letting people realize that they're going through, but making
Yes.
that experience happen is a sign of good architecture.
Yes.
Right. That's absolutely amazing. Tarun bhai, like, we also discussed about a couple of projects that you mentioned about the architect that you really look up to. I am Ahmedabad, and even talked about Patang Hotel, and like, we at Shada Granite are really proud to have supplied some material over
Wow.
there, right? So I want to talk about like, being in stone industry. Like, I love talking about stones to different architects, and like, how they use it, how they see it, right? And I've seen your projects, like, you love to play with stones in different ways, be it flooring, be it cladding, be it elevation, right? What, like, role do you think stone, or what change do you think stone as a construction material can bring to a project?
So here I'll quote couple of architects.
Sure.
So stone is an honest material.
Honest material. Wow.
Right? It has a characteristics. Like, as I know Louis Icahn said, stone belongs to a sculptor. For laymen, for normal people, it may be a stone piece, but sculptor can see a different form in it.
True.
right? Which और ज्वेलर के लिए रॉ गोल्ड है, उनके लिए रॉ गोल्ड नहीं है ना, इट्स नॉट अ मार्केट वैल्यू, इट्स फॉर देम इट्स अ ज्वेलरी,
Correct.
right? So because of its inert quality of stone, and again if you use a contextual material in your project, then you know it will help to create an experience based on your vision. वो उसमें निकल के आ सकता है. For example, we have used we made a Blue Lotus cafe out of Dhangadra stone.
Correct.
Of course, it's a thick stone, but in hot and dry climate, if you design with stone and sandstone, which has a porosity in it, because of those porosity, when air passes through it, it becomes cool.
Correct.
Right? And that's why जोधपुर जैसलमेर के जो पहले पुराने हाउसेज है वो सब स्टोन में बनते थे.
True.
वहां पे ऐसे टू हैव दैट वेंटिलेशन, वहां पे जालीज होती थी, जरूखाज होते थे, जिसके थ्रू वेंटिलेशन होता था. सो इंस्पायरिंग फ्रॉम जालीज एंड जरूखा ऑफ जैसलमेर and Jodhpur and our vernacular architecture, we have used stone in a different way.
Amazing.
And as I discussed earlier, you can create a story out of it, the way in which now to CNC work and other things.
Endless limits.
Endless limit, and time wise also. Earlier we used to have that craftsman where we invite them and ask them to make a sculpture out of it, and then you place it somewhere. But this is one thing which gives a different experience. And again, stone, as I said, belongs to a sculptor. When you use it differently, you will have a unique expression.
Correct.
Rather than plaster or color में जो निकल के आता है.
Correct.
So we don't want to hide any material. So we have made building out of brick also, through concrete also. So if we are using concrete, then we'll use a pigment color. If you are making building from brick, so we don't want to hide that brick with the plaster, with the color and other things. So we stick to the honesty of material, and that is where it gives you and creates a certain nuance.
Amazing. I like I love the perspective that you have on stone, and we always have our shared love for stone as well.
Yes.
And I love it how you said stone is an honest material, right?
Yes.
We often quote it as God's canvas, because it's something like we are not making, we're just mere bridge between extracting it from
Yes.
the planet and providing into different houses. So I absolutely love it, and it's blank canvas as well. As you said, stone belongs to the sculptor, and with integration of modern tech, as you can see over here as well.
Yes.
It's doing wonders.
And it's a contextual also, so it will not betray you.
Yeah.
So when you use it wisely, the way in which you have used multicolored quota or this slates stone differently. So sometimes it's rough, sometimes it's mirror polish, sometimes it's leather polish. So it gives you a different feel when you walk on such surfaces.
Very true.
That's how you create an engagement between person who's visiting or a person who's seeing it first time.
Correct.
And as I discussed earlier, contextual material has it is rooted in our context.
Correct.
So ठंडी में गरम में ठंडा, वो सारी क्वालिटी उसमें आएगी. टाइल्स में या फिर कोई डिफरेंट मटेरियल में नहीं निकल के आ सकती.
Definitely, nothing beats stone, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Tarun bhai, it has been amazing talking to you till now. I'd love to just leave one last question with you. You are very experienced, have worked upon many projects, and I think this is a profession, as you said, is sort of future proof as well.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people are aspiring to be architects or interior designers. What would be one piece of advice you would give to anyone who's going to be an architect or an interior designer in the near future?
I still see myself as a toddler in this field.
Okay.
I'm not a taller, experienced architect. We are learning. So we are learning since 20 years, and that learning never stops, because it never stops you teaching. Which I would love to happily do it for decades to come, or this life, the other life, we have already discussed. But I can share my experience with others, or maybe just fresh architects. Not
one learning from your experiences.
For experience. So, just I found my mentor, which taught me what not to do. Somewhere down the line, if your practice is ethically right, then you will find your own, solace, or you'll find something which gives you a different meaning altogether, which makes you passionate about.
Hmm.
So this is what, yeah, one piece which I would
Amazing.
recommend everyone. Yeah.
No, mostly a lot of people say, like, the practical experience beats theoretical knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you, like, you still recommended reading books. So why is
And,
that?
and another thing, so I have read it somewhere. I don't know where I've read it, but you know, I will be on my, when I'll be on my deathbed,
Hmm.
you will find me doing design. So this is what I wanted to do, right? So there are choices which you are making. So there are gifts also which is being given to you.
Hmm.
For example, you are good at narrating, or somebody is good at doing podcasts, or somebody is good in a, or somebody is extremely charming.
Hmm.
So that those are the gifts which you got from someone else, which you
Hmm.
should not be proud of.
Okay.
Or gift ke basis pe, if you start choosing your career, then it won't help.
Okay.
But there are choices which you are making. So I'm just quoting someone. I don't know where I have read it. There are two choices available to you. First is the ease of doing things, ease of comfort, and a luxurious lifestyle. And second is a service to society
Correct.
and
Hmm.
adventure. Choose any of this which you will be proud of when you are 90
When you're 90.
year old. So when you look back, so will you choose a life of ease and comfort, or will you choose a life of adventure and service to society?
Amazing.
Yeah. So this is where the difference, and this choice will make a difference in your life.
That's amazing. That's like, something that we're concluding on a very high note,
Yeah.
right? But apart from, like, the all conversations we had and the questions that I asked, which you answered beautifully, anything you would like to share from your end as a closing note?
I think I covered all the things. I don't know. I'm not finding some. It's difficult for me to have a closing statement on it, but let me try.
How was your experience? You can just share that.
In terms of this
Yeah.
discussion,
Yeah.
it's really something which I never thought of.
Okay.
I must admit this. Okay, I thought, I'll share my experience, and this has happened every time. So मैं कुछ सोच के आता हूँ,
होता कुछ
होता
और
कुछ और है. So it's like someone else is operating
Hmm.
and telling your story when you are narrating or when you are speaking. So absolutely, there's no doubt where I have personally also internalized and questioned myself. Whatever question you have asked, that take me in the past, and I'm realizing कि अच्छा ये किया था, and that's why so that filtration has happened. So one thing you rightly said, before earlier it's difficult to get projects,
Hmm.
and difficult to get projects which you want to be part of.
Correct.
So that screening has happened over the period of time. So because of that screening, now you have a certain client
Hmm.
who will only approach you.
Correct. Definitely.
So that screening needs to be there. Unless and until otherwise, if you're running behind all the projects, then you'll not find your true self, or you'll not find yourself to express yourself into such projects.
Hmm.
So as an artist and as an architect, it's an expression which we are offering. So this is whatever projects we have done, it's expression of ourselves.
Amazing.
Yeah. So this is what I have. But just those thoughts are running in my mind.
Correct.
After our
Definitely.
discussion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, this is it, and I would say miles to go before.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And definitely, like, this was one of the recorded podcasts we had. I'm pretty sure we have a lot of unrecorded podcasts which are yet to happen.
Of course, where we
in the near
the stories
future.
which we earlier discussed,
Yeah.
we are yet to be bound into those projects. When we again, I'm looking forward to such discussion where we'll actually go to the site and discuss
Yeah, exactly.
how we have inculcated those stories into the projects. That's where the real change we can see.
Definitely, that's definitely going to happen. But I'd like to really thank you कि आप आ जाए and you, like, spend this much time talking with me and, like, helping me understand more about you, helping me more understand about architecture and, like, the principles that you've learned in the journey of your life till now. and I look forward to more such
And
conversations.
the feeling is like, likewise. And
Yeah.
Dhruvin, I have never seen a stone vendor who is passionate about stone. Let me be honest with you. Not because we are doing a podcast, but I have seen, and when we discuss, and when we also discussed earlier, nobody talks about, or personally, I have not met someone who is talking about stone in this detail. Every time when I'm meeting a stone vendor, they are about, we have such qualities, we do this, we do that, and that's it. It is all about selling and procuring, and this is how we market our product.
Correct.
It is something else. We always talk about the stories and experience when you design with certain stone. So, and thank you again. Thank you for having me here. And this is
Thank you so much
yeah.
for
Thank
your
you. Thank
kind
you, Dhruv.
words.